Hi, welcome back. In this video, we are going to look at creating some WebLogic domains using the operator. If you haven't already watched the video about installing the operator, you might want to watch that one first. This one kind of follows on where that one left off. So to create a domain, again, we're going to follow the instructions that are available on the GitHub site. So if you look down a little further in the documentation here, it says creating a domain. So if we take a look at that link, it goes through and explains some things to be aware of. Setting up secrets for the admin server credentials. And then we go through setting up the parameters in the file and running the script to create the domain. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. So let's start by creating the secret. So I'm going to say kube control create secret generic, and it's going to be called domain1 WebLogic credentials. And I'm going to use the from literal, which lets me enter the data here. The reason we do it this way is so that we don't have to store these credentials in a file, which would obviously be a little bit less secure. Obviously, you need to take some precautions to make sure that you keep your logon safe and so on. So let's create the secret. Okay, that's done. And we can see that in the dashboard. Let's take a look. Actually, I put that in the wrong namespace. So let me do that again and put it in the right place. And I'll just get rid of the one that I created the first time. Okay, so if we take a look at our domain1 namespace, we can see the secret that we just created. Okay, so here's our secret that we just created. Okay, so next we need to create the inputs file. So I'm going to make a copy of the create domain inputs. And I'll call that domain1.yaml. And let's go ahead and edit that. Again, I'm going to take a lot of the defaults. So I'll just walk through here. Our admin port will be 7001. Our admin server name will be admin-server. The domain name will be base domain. The domain UID, which has to be unique across the whole Kubernetes cluster, is going to be domain1. Notice it doesn't have to be the same as the domain name. It's perfectly fine to have multiple domains with the same domain name, as long as they have a different domain UID. We're going to have a cluster called cluster1, and I'm going to ask for 4 managed servers in that cluster, and I'm going to ask for 2 of those to be automatically started, and the other 2 not. They'll be called managed server 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they'll all listen on port 8001. Here's my persistent volume, 10 gigabytes. I'm going to take the default storage class. Here's the details for the persistent volume claim. And I want production mode enabled. This is where my domain secret will be mounted. And the name of the secret, that's the one that we just created. Now we are going to expose a T3 channel. So I'm going to set this to true. And in here, I need to put the name of the Kubernetes server. and here's the port 30,012. We have a node port for the admin server, so again, I'm going to turn this on, turn it to true. That will let us access the admin console. So this one here lets us access the server using WST, and this one lets us use the web-based admin console. I'm going to put this in the namespace domain 1. You notice that's the same as the domain UID. It doesn't have to be by any means. That's just a coincidence. And I'm going to use the traffic load balancer, and I'm setting a port here 30305 for my load balancer. So let's save that, and now we run the create domain script and give it the input file. So you can see a lot like the operator script, it prints out the parameters. Now it's going through checking my persistent volumes and the persistent volume claim exist. It's generated some YAML files for me. Now it's creating a Kubernetes job that will actually start up a pod with the WebLogic server binary image from the Docker store, and it will run some shell scripts and some WST to create the domain for me on the persistent volume. So now it's just waiting for that job to complete. And we can see there it has completed. Okay, so now it's setting up the load balancer for me for my cluster. And so you see it creating server's account and doing the deployment and so on. And then it's creating the domain custom resource, which we'll take a look at in just a minute. Okay, so again, you see here are the files that it generated sitting here. So the domain custom resource is an interesting one. Let's take a look at that. So the operator, like other operators, it defines a custom resource definition, which is essentially a extension to the Kubernetes API. So we define one called domain, domain.weblogic.oracle, and it has its own data structure here. So you see it has a domain UID, domain name. It has the admin server secrets and details to get to the admin server, and not much else. So all of the other information about the domain we obtain by introspecting it through the admin server's REST interface. Then down here we have the startup control. So you can see in my cluster, you may recall I asked for the W2 managed service started by default. Here's my T3 channel down here and so on. So we can see this by doing a queue control get domains in the right namespace. So you see here's my domain created a minute ago. And if I do a describe domain 1 in my namespace, you'll see the same information that we just looked at. Admin secret and ports and so on, the server startup, and also we can see the status information here. So you can see at the moment the admin server is available, the cluster and the managed servers are not available, and you can see it's still progressing. So if we do get pods in our namespace, as you see the admin server is running and it's also ready. And the managed servers are running, but they're not ready yet. So let's take a look at the logs just for interest's sake. So if we take a look at this managed server, you can see, oh, it looks like it's already started up now. So if we go back and take a look, indeed, you see they've both started up now. They're both ready and running. Okay, so we take a look at our domain again. See now it says that cluster 1 is available and all 3 servers are available, and in fact the whole domain is available. Okay, so let's connect to our admin console. So as you see, it's on port 30701. So let me grab this window here, 30701 console. So here's our WebLogic console. We can log in. We get the password right. Okay, so we can see, if we take a look in here, our 4 managed servers, and we see that these 2 here are shut down, and we have 2 running, which is what we asked for. In a later video, we'll look at scaling, and you'll see that the servers get automatically started and stopped by the operator. So let's go ahead and create a second domain. So I'm going to copy my domain 1 file, and we'll call the new one domain 2. So I'm going to keep the same port, admin server name. I'll change my domain UID to domain 2. Keep most of the same details here. I'm going to use a different persistent volume. Each domain has its own persistent volume. Those are not shared between domains. And now I'll need to use different ports here, so I'm just going to add one to the port for the T3 channel. I'm going to add one to the port for the admin console, and I'll add one to each of these ports here for the load balancer, which we'll get to see later on. So let's just check we've got everything right. Domain UID. Let me make sure I change the namespace. All right, let's put it in a different namespace. You can have more than one domain in the same namespace, that's fine. But just for the purposes of demonstration, I'll create it in a different namespace. Need to create the secret again, secret for this admin server. So I'll use the same credentials. I'm just going to create it as domain 2 WebLogic credentials in the namespace domain 2. And we'll go ahead and create that domain. So the job's still running, just waiting for that to complete. And it's finished now. And again, it's setting up another load balancer for my cluster in this domain. Okay, so that's all done. Let's take a look this time in the Kubernetes console, our dashboard. So let's take a look in domain 2. So here's our domain 2. namespace. So as you can see, we have our load balancer. Here's the job that ran to create the domain. See, the admin server is still starting up. It's not quite finished yet. Let's just refresh. And you see the admin server is started up now, and the two managed servers are starting up. And we see now all of our managed servers have started up. Let's take a quick look at our ingress, which is the load balancing configuration. So we can see in here it has got both of the managed servers listed. So this will load balance between the servers. Again, we'll see load balancing in a later video. Let's also take a look at the admin console. So we take a look at our servers here, and again we see we have our 4 managed servers, 2 started up and 2 not started. And let's also take a look at the T3 channel on the admin server. And again, we'll see how that's used later in another video about WST. So that covers creating domains. In the next video, we'll look at deploying an application into our domain, a web application, into our cluster, and see how the load balancing and scaling works.